Hi and hello Watch fans, and welcome to another edition of the Real Time Show here at Villa Sarasan for Time to Watchers. I am joined today by Sarah Ruman from Laco. Hello, welcome to the Glass Igloo.
Hello people over there.
Hello people around the world. Why did that sound so much like Eurovision? Like, hello, Berlin call it. Who would get 12 points from the brands you've seen exhibiting at Villa Sarasan if you were awarding points as in Eurovision style?
To be honest, I didn't had any chance to take a look around that much for the other brands. Of course, I know many of the other brands, but I don't know the booths over there because we're only the second day. So
Okay. Very diplomatic.
To take a walk around.
Okay. I should have booked this a recording on the last day so I could have got a full rundown from 12 to 1 point.
Exactly.
Or maybe if we have time, we can come back and do it a la Eurovision. That would be some quite good content. We should explore that. But we are not here today to talk about Eurovision, even though I love Eurovision. Do you love Eurovision?
To be honest, no. We're German, so...
Well, you won it once recently with Lena, 2010 Satellite. Come on. She even thought she could win again. She came back the year after. I've got to know your German history.
Always on the last place
Well.
or second class, so please don't talk about Eurovision anymore.
Okay. All right, we'll talk about football maybe. That's a little more impressive, although not recently.
Of course.
Okay, moving on to watches, which is something we both know more about. Sarah represents Laco, founded in 1925, which, coincidentally, is 100 years ago. So I guess this is quite an important year for you and the brand. So why don't you tell us what's been going on behind the scenes?
There's a lot of going on behind the scenes, but we are early this year. So we have April now, and the most of the action will come in fall and winter. So people should really have focus on Laco. Follow us on social media and newsletter and so on, because we have a lot ongoing behind the scenes.
Just in case any of our listeners have never heard of Laco, which seems unlikely, but just say they haven't, how would you describe the brand to them? What do you specialize in?
So I'm always starting with German brand. So of course there's Swiss watchmaking, but second place is always the German watchmaking. So there's Glashütte, of course, in Germany, but we are coming from Pforzheim, so the second watchmaking city in Germany. As you mentioned before, Laco is 100 years old now, so a lot of tradition and heritage, and it's mostly known for the pilot watches or also the Flieger watches. So there were big 55 millimeter observation watches in the 1940s.
Wow.
There were 5 companies who were allowed to produce this. It was Lange & Söhne, Wempe, Stover, IWC and Laco. So some famous names. And those Flieger watches are, many people know it from IWC.
Do you have one over there that I can see, or an example of something?
Big one.
Okay, so, oh my God, look at this. So this has got a strap on it, which I assume is meant to be worn around the thigh, as was common practice for old pilots.
Yeah.
It's actually enormous. It's a bizarre thing because it looks like a prop from a movie, like for the BFG or something, because it's too small to be a clock and it's definitely too big to be a wristwatch, but a thigh watch it most certainly is. Wow. What a piece. When is this from?
We don't have any documents left, unfortunately, but we guess like 41, 42.
Okay. Wow.
55 millimeter.
That's no joke. I don't know. I mean, there are some brands that do produce watches of these dimensions, but really very few that still would ever produce a watch that had such an open edge-to-edge crystal. So the dial aperture is enormous. There's barely any bezel on this thing. So it looks like nothing else. Like I said, you might find the odd Casio Mudmaster or G-Shock that technically has the same diameter, but it doesn't have the same appearance whatsoever. That is a museum piece if ever I've seen one. Wow. Because Sarah's brought this box with her, a box full of watches. There's I can see
little secret box.
A little secret box.
Some watches.
Yeah, and there's at least 10, exactly 10 pieces in there, but only one of them is a true novelty. But before we get to that novelty, because it looks very interesting, we are going to have to talk about that quite extensively. Why don't you tell me what else you've brought along for our little show and tell session?
So we have the new one. I will show you now for real novelty, but it's not available yet.
Okay.
I know that people are always looking for new ones in the shows, but we decided to go for the new ones in summer and fall by end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So you might know this already. It's our Flieger chronograph.
Yes.
It's our keel.
Yeah.
So we have it in white already and in black. So typical tool watch chronograph. And people wanted a blue one. So we want happy customers.
So tell me what you mean when people want it. Do they get in touch with you? Like, what does Laco's customer base look like? Is it a lot of repeat buyers, people that have multiple models from your collection, and so voices that you're very likely to listen to when they get in touch and say, hey, you know, we love the keel, we love the chronograph, but we want a blue one, and then you're like, okay.
Yes. We have some Laco collectors who really know the whole collection, sometimes better than other colleagues. They know everything about our watches. But we also have some like first-time buyers, which start in the world of mechanical watches with our basic line. So the basic line, for example, is starting at 340 euros. It's a very good price point for a made in Germany watch with mechanical movement.
It certainly is, yeah.
Of course, we have a lot of people looking for real pilot watch, but Laco is much more in the meantime than just the pilot ones.
Yeah, I've got a Laco Squad Amazonas watch, which I've had for years. I think you sent me that for review back when I was working for a blog to watch.
Some years ago.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I love that watch, and I wear it frequently when I'm kayaking, and I always said to people, I never expected to love it. I love the more heritage-inspired pieces. I love the true pilot watches. I think that in terms of value for the product that you get on your wrist, there's no better maker of pilot watches than Laco. I love Hanhart. I have respect for IWC, but when it comes to getting that feel, that sense, that genuineness, for not much money at all, it's an incredible value proposition. But then you said to me, oh, would you like to review this? I think it was a new range at the time, the Amazonas. And I was like, well, I will review it, but I was not exactly excited because I thought, oh, it's a sports watch. It's not really what I think of when I think of Laco. It's not really my style, whatever. I got it. And I think the retail at the time was something stupid like 500-600 euros. I think it's gone up significantly now. It's maybe around 1,000.
No, we don't had any price increase since 2017. So we really want to have stable prices. Of course, for the newer models, we have a little bit upper prices because everyone's increasing their prices, but you don't have any price increase since 2017.
Okay.
So the sports models are the same price since we released them in 2018, I guess.
Wow, I really teed you up for that one, didn't I? Honestly, she's not paying me for this. In fact, no one is, which is a shame.
Yeah, they are, I think, more or less like 1,000 euros. So they start at 930 euros, like our pilot ones with the Celita movements as well.
Sure.
So this is our price point for the biggest part of the collection.
Okay, so I had this watch on my wrist for the first time, and it's a very stout, very robust sports watch. It has a rotating bezel, and one of the things that really stands out about it, and I guess anyone who's into sports watches will probably do the same thing. The first time you get them in hand, you turn the bezel to see how good a quality click it has. And this Laco has a better click on it than any sports watch I've encountered before you hit the 5-figure mark. There's no joke about that. There's no backlash whatsoever. There's no wiggle room. I'm not sure of the mechanism. It doesn't feel like it's ceramic ball bearings. It feels like a more traditional spring click. But at the same time, the machining must be absolutely on point to achieve that kind of robustness and that kind of solidity with every movement. But the thing that really stuck with me about this watch, in fact, there were a few things that made no sense to me at the time. One of them was you have got like 16 different fonts on the dial.
Yes.
That's an exaggeration, but there's a ton of fonts. And I was like, oh, this is stupid, whatever else. I think it was the cursive Laco logo, and then the minute track and the hours are different. And then the script down between center and 6 is something else entirely. Somehow it works. And I don't know. I think that's always a moment to doff one's cap to a designer that is able to pull all these things together that anyone that thinks they know design would say was a bad idea. But then when you see the end result, you're like, oh, actually, that kind of works. It does work. It does, annoyingly. It still annoys me all these years later because I don't understand it. But, you know, that's the thing. I guess that's if it works, I don't question it because I wear this watch. And the main reason I wear it, aside from the bezel and all the fonts, is the color, the accent color. So I've got the green one. Now, it did come with a blue. It did come with an orange. There was also, I think, an orange and a black sort of split colorway. And I have to say that these colors are the most legible in not darkness, but in dusky and overcast conditions that I've ever encountered. So I wear this watch, which is extremely water resistant. What is the water resistance?
30 meters.
Okay.
ATM.
30 ATM? Yeah, 30 ATM. And I wear it when I'm kayaking mostly. And as many of you know, I grew up in the north of England, and so the weather is not exactly good. We have weather, a lot of it, but it's mostly terrible. And this watch just comes to life in these conditions. It's extremely impressive. It did come on a bracelet. I also got the rubber strap and also the bright green NATO. My choice is the black rubber, which has the sort of extended shoulders that you'd expect from, a lot of old Casios and Seikos, and they're perfectly comfortable and like great for going over a wetsuit if you wear a wetsuit, which I don't, but if you do, they're ideal. So kudos to that model. I'm still holding the chronograph. I'm going to give that back to you.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah.
If you want to assist us at the booth, always welcome.
Yeah, I got myself another job, just what I need. Okay, so what have we got in the top left-hand corner over there? This one with the big...
one?
Yeah, I've seen this before last year.
Still looking for the sport and squad models for Laco. As mentioned, Laco is much more than just pilots. This is our Atacama.
Okay.
We also had this model, I think, like 5, 6, 7 years already. We designed this together with the German... It's again a click, you hear?
Yeah, listen to that. Okay, that's good.
I always say it's a German click.
I don't know why it sounds so threatening when you say it.
You can't imagine the Laco meeting, so we don't have any designer. We don't have any technical advisor who says us the watch, this is the new watch, it has to look like this. So it's always a meeting with the marketing department, purchasing department, CEO, sales, and so on. And the click is so important. So everybody's at the Laco company is testing this click.
Oh my God.
So yeah, but we designed this together with the German military, the Atacama. Was there for years and years, and we're always going to several fairs and events. So not only watch fairs, but also other fairs like for the military people. And they told us it's nice to have an automatic squad watch, but if you want a really exact watch, which is robust, we need a quartz movement.
Mm-hmm.
So we released this one, I think 2 years ago, and it's one of our best sellers at the moment.
It's an extremely unusual watch. I would describe the case middle as bowl-shaped. The crown is at 12 o'clock, and to compensate for that, there's two almost mirrored end links to the bracelet. The 12 o'clock end links got a cutout, so the crown is either protected when on the wrist or when off, easily accessible, which is a really nice feature, actually. It's not like most 12 o'clock crowns, where they're always a bit of a struggle to get access to. This one is generously sized, and when you do pull the end link down, it is totally proud of the case and that link, and it's a screw down crown as well, so totally rock solid. There's a wide, flat bezel that overhangs the bowl case and really is the focal point of this design. The dial is very deep, obviously allowed for by that thin quartz movement, which is a GMT with a date at 6 o'clock. Okay, tell me how much this is, because there's a lot here that is exciting, a lot that is different, and it's water resistant to 200 meters as well.
Yes, it was one of the requests we got from the military people that they have a big face to read the time. So we have 46 millimeter diameter at the front, but only 34 millimeter on your wrist.
That's not 34 millimeters. You're lying to me.
It is.
I wish I'd brought a vernier gauge
and
to
you
prove.
Don't feel it on the wrist. You don't have to have big wrists for this watch, even if it has the 46 millimeter. Because due to this conical shape, the crown at the 12 and its flexible lugs, you don't feel it at all.
Yeah, that's a very good point. The flexible lugs mean that, we always talk about lug drop-off, like the immediacy of a drop-off. You have some watches that have a very stout lug to lug, but the first link of the bracelet adds active length to the L to L measurement. Whereas in this case, the drop-off isn't just immediate, it's actually negative. Bizarrely, these two lugs fold under the case. And I wouldn't advise wearing it if your wrist was that slim. I mean, that's like a baby-sized wrist. Oh, it's a watch for a baby. A baby soldier. Baby soldiers. That's extreme.
Maybe we have to cut this out.
No, we'll leave it in. Don't worry. Neither of us have touched the whiskey that's been made for us by a good friend Hakeem El Kadiri just down the road. Loglat. It's a Tiatia special. Come by the booth if you want to taste it. But it'll probably all be gone by the time you get here because this episode will go out not before these people around me drink the whiskey. I'm not talking about you, Sarah. I know you won't drink it full. No. She's like Aperol Spritz.
I'm not drinking alone, as mentioned.
Well, you're in good company here, although I've not touched a drop.
But then I have to go outside.
Yeah, okay. Okay, what have we got next to that incredible, unusual piece?
So, there's 2 more watches I wanted to show you.
All right.
This one. It's good that we don't have any camera in here.
Why is this embargoed?
Yes.
Okay.
As you mentioned, we have our 100th anniversary this year, and we plan a very special project for this year. So the watch you have now in your hands, it's not for sale. You can only get it with a giveaway. So we plan to give away 100 pieces.
Okay.
So 1 watch for every year.
That's a good price.
Yes. So as mentioned, people should really have a focus on Laco and follow us on social media, sign up to the newsletter and so on, because there's a lot to come.
I'm going to describe it, but not describe it. I'm not going to give too much away. Okay, so I'm guessing this is a 42 millimeter case. It's in what looks like blasted steel.
If you know Laco, you know the surface.
Yeah, okay, so it's very utilitarian. We've got a beautiful diamond crown. I won't tell you what colour the dial is because that's obviously something quite special to this watch, and it is special.
Yes.
Not something you'll be expecting to see. Hands extremely legible as you'd expect. Classic. Is this an A dial?
Yes.
Is that too much to give away? Maybe I got it wrong. Probably not. Okay, so you got an...
Also B, maybe it's another type of watch.
Yeah, maybe.
Diver or some winch.
Could be a diver. Yeah, but yeah. Okay, we all knew what it was going to be. But it's beautiful. It's unlike anything that's in the collection right now. One of the most notable things is the case flank engraving, the sometimes commented upon case flank engraving from the history of Laco, has been substituted instead for a celebratory Laco 1925 to 2025 engraving. What was the thinking behind that? Is that a special thing for this model, or will all Lacos have that engraving going forward?
No, it's only for this model, but we want to have the connection to the historical ones. Mm-hmm. So as you mentioned, the pilot ones all have this engraving on the side. So it's not a serial number. Many people think it's a serial number, but they all have the same ones. The old ones have this, and also the new pilot ones have this. So we wanted to have a connection to the old ones.
So it's a product identifier, basically, the same way that NATO straps were otherwise known as G10 straps, because NATO had the product code. So when you were a new soldier, you would go to the quartermaster and you would supply your list of necessary kit, and that was how the straps were identified. And similarly, the German counterpart in the military, it's the Reichsluftfahrtministerium.
Right.
Close enough.
Perfect. Perfect.
And that's where that number comes from. So it's a very historical thing that Laco has perpetuated into this day. But this one, in absence of that, is certainly very special. Keep your eyes peeled on Laco then, yes. Keep and watching the channels.
Limited and not for sale.
Limited and not for sale. What will people have to do to be given one of these watches?
We will let you know.
Nitty. Again, so ominous.
I'm not allowed yet to tell too much about this.
Okay.
And another secret. Maybe please don't explain too much about this one.
Okay.
But I will tell you the story behind.
Okay.
We have some count up models since 5 years. So our edition models. So we started with the edition 95. It was a Navy watch 5 years ago. So 95 years of Laco.
Mm-hmm.
Then we had a sports model, the edition 96. An original pilot one, 97. Always limited up to the number of years.
Okay.
98 was a chronograph. 99 was one of the pilot watches from our basic collection. And this year we have the edition 100.
Okay.
So will be also limited up to 100 pieces.
That's one hell of a way to stretch an anniversary out for an extra 5 years.
This one will come in November or December, I guess. So you have to wait a little bit for this. But yeah, it's...
I want to describe it, but there's no way to describe it without giving away that exactly
too much.
It's not what you'd expect from Laco. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
And if you're a fan of the brand's history and a fan of what they've done before, I have to say, execution-wise, this is a superb watch. It does what it's supposed to be doing very, very well. It's unlike very many things on the market today. And yeah, I'll say no more. Beautiful, though. Very, very unexpected.
And yeah, the edition 99 last year was sold out within 2 hours.
Okay, so if you are keen on getting your hands on one of these extremely limited pieces to celebrate the centenary of Laco, then stay in touch with Sarah.
Yeah, or the other people at Laco.
Yeah, you don't have to personally bother her on her own channels.
Over.
Don't run her over. Definitely don't run her over. Just don't overwhelm her with DMs or whatever. You'll find out how to get it.
But
and how
you
to
are
be honest.
always welcome to DM us.
Okay. All right. Well, you heard it here first. She's open to you sliding into her DMs. Never had that on the Real Time Show before, but yeah. Well, now you've said it. It's not. I'm not editing it out. Yeah.
For the Laco profile, please.
You've gone red. In Laco 1925. What's your private profile? And that's the end of the show. Okay, no, seriously though, we are going to end it here. Thank you very much for your time, Sarah. Thanks for bringing this wonderful box of tricks, and keep your eyes peeled on what Laco's doing this year. It's going to be one to remember.
Perfect. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Another meeting, unfortunately, Alon, you weren't able to sit in because, of course, this is a brand that needs a lot of discussion, really. Laco. I love Sarah. I mean, am I in love with Sarah? Maybe a little bit. What I mean is, I like her very much as a colleague, and I've always had a bit of a soft spot for Laco as a result. So I've written about them many times. I own several Lacos, and I very much enjoy wearing them because I think it's an excellent product for an excellent price. But you weren't in this meeting, but what is your take on the brand? We can just do a top-level overview of this one.
So I love Pilot watches, and I love Fliegeruhr watches. I even like the design of Bayuhr watches. Now, I have sometimes issues with watches that were made for one particular army instead of the other. The perfect example of being Swiss is IWC. They both made watches for RAF and for the Luftwaffe. If you're a German brand and you were forced to make watches in the 1940s or the end of the 30s, well, you didn't have a choice to supply any other army or air force than your own, of course. I do not know enough about Laco. What I know, it's a fan favorite. They make rather true to original replicas of their own catalog. So old school pilot watches. And I think they do that at a fair price. That's the only thing I know. So I'm very eager to listen to the interview you actually recorded during Time to Watches with them.
Yeah, we didn't touch on any of the, well, we can say controversial aspects of the collection. Not all of the watches that Laco produced still bear the, do I ever get this right? Reichsluftfahrtsministerium number, the reference number that was assigned to pilots' watches that were issued to the Luftwaffe in the 30s and 40s, and obviously throughout a very dark time in Germany's history. I think is a sensitive topic. Of course it is. Some people will point to the fact that they are just historically accurate timepieces. Others will say that there are elements of history that we shouldn't perpetuate. And I think both positions are valid and discussable, and everyone is entitled to have their own subjective take on that. And I think what we can say about Laco, who celebrates its 100th anniversary this year, by the way, Laco 1925. So there's a lot of exciting stuff coming out. There's actually a nice dress piece on the way to mark that occasion. And they do make a great quality product for a very reasonable price. That we can say. That is, I would say, irrefutable. And I think that their existence and their persistence in the market is really underpinned by that. So it's a brand that I feel can do a lot more still. There is progress to be made in not just product design, but also communication, brand presentation. And I look forward to see what they do with the next, well, I won't be around for the next 100 years, I'm sure, but at least the next couple of decades. It'll be interesting to see how Laco adjusts and evolves in a climate and society that is itself evolving quite significantly. I mean, I was thinking the other day how bizarre it is that there are barely any people left now who actually lived through the war. Very, very few people left who fought in the war. And within the next decade, I think it's pretty likely that there won't be anyone left on planet Earth that experienced that firsthand. And I think we do see in society this fading memory. You know, it's a pretty tumultuous time for geopolitics at the moment. And one has to ask the question, is the fading human lived experience playing a part in that? We both grew up, there's only 6 years between us, right? But we both grew up like with parents who were the children of people who were active combatants in this conflict. And it was very much put over us. You know, this happened within living memory. I was born in 1985, 40 years after the end of the war, and another 40 years has passed since. That's a crazy thing to imagine, that when I first entered the world, there was exactly the same amount of time between the end of World War II and today. And it scares me a little bit. And we should always talk about these things, and we should always keep them top of mind and endeavor to not make the same mistakes that were made in the past. I don't know how I've ended up going down this rabbit hole now on a watch podcast, but you know, when you get reminded of that era, it's hard for your mind to not run off in different directions. I'm going to shut up now before I go on an hour-long monologue about things I clearly don't understand intimately enough to be talking at length about. So let's get Laco on the show at some point and have a real open discussion about that and how they see themselves developing in the future and what they think about the potential controversies that could be raised by what is undeniably, I think, an excellent product with an interesting history. Alon?
Well said. And I'm very keen to have that dialogue. So I hope they'll come on.